Hi, I'm back again to continue some of my thought on fear and anxiety. In the previous introductory video, I started speaking about some of the elements of fear and anxiety. Um, One of the things that we spoke about was how to evaluate whether fear was something that needed to be dealt with or whether it was appropriate or not. And I suggested that one of the ways would be to have conversations with people that you trust, friends, family, therapist, whatever the case might be. Obviously, the subjective nature of fear and anxiety uh, can give us a clear indication of whether it's debilitating or not. It's not only interpersonally that we can adjudicate whether something is problematic or not. I spoke a little bit about the importance of putting feelings into words once you have identified them, and some of the aspects that one can pay attention to, uh, such as thoughts, physical sensations, and context, and so on. One of the things that I did not mention in the previous conversation, and that I think is of great importance, is the faculty of attention. What we pay attention to and how we pay attention. Um, so, in a broad sense, there are two places that we can place our attention on: things on the outside, things we see, hear, that we feel with our tactile senses. Um, so things on the outside and things on the inside, thoughts, feelings, and so on. So one way to describe fear is to say that it is a state of mind that determines what we pay attention to and how we pay attention to those things. One might even say that it is a kind of paying attention. Paying attention to something that is threatening or that we find difficult in one form or another. So let me share some thoughts on what to pay attention to and what not. I think in the modern world there is an inordinate amount of things that demand our attention, and it's very difficult to know what to pay attention to and what not. And unfortunately, we are not very discriminatory when it comes to what we pay attention to. One of the things that I think is very problematic, potentially, would be the things that we perceive through media, including things like YouTube, of course, Twitter, any kind of social media, Facebook, Instagram, any of these modern applications that connect us to people and places that we would normally not be in contact with. So let's use some of the social media as an example of what we pay attention to. I think I think the one of the problems that we face is that the people who write the programming for these platforms and who write algorithms for these platforms, the aim of those algorithms is often to give you more of what you pay attention to. First of all, to recognize that you're paying attention to something, and then to often give you more of that, or to perhaps give you more of what other people have paid attention to that paid attention to what you paid attention to. It's a very convoluted thing. So if I follow a particular story in the news, let's say I receive notifications on stories about Trump, uh, President Donald Trump, and somebody else is following a related story, let's say the Mueller investigation, I am likely to also, and then I'm in contact with that person on one of these social media applications, I might get notifications of what they are watching and not only of the things that I'm watching. Now, on one level, this of course makes sense that if something is important enough for us to pay attention to it, it is useful that we can have an aid to help us get more information on that. On a different level, it's not that useful. One of the reasons it's not that useful is because I'm not sure what the most apt way would be to describe this, but it is as if parts of our conscious awareness diminishes when we interact with these applications or these forums, and we become a little bit less discriminatory. It's almost like we trust what we see there as being representative of reality rather than being fully cognizant of the fact that it's a very thin slice of reality. So we have something that seems like a diminished capacity of awareness. Part of that is also, and this is where fear becomes relevant, that because fear is such a powerful evolutionary shaping force, we are quick to pay attention to things that evoke fear in us. And it's very easy to see this. News bulletins are most likely going to consist of bad news or things that are wrong in the world or that frighten people, that upset people. And yet this is really not the majority of events that happens in the world. Now, maybe the majority of things that happen in the world might not be particularly interesting, and fair enough. But we then get a condensed and a filtered version of the whole of reality and things that are likely to evoke fear in us as well. Now, of course, this is also very prevalent in the things that we pay attention to on social media. I think Twitter is a good example of this, where you are likely to follow people who share similar opinions or express thoughts around issues that you have paid attention to in the past, and it feels as if they are saying something of importance with regards to how you feel. Now, again, there's nothing inherently bad or wrong about that, but if it becomes a super condensed version of fear evoking material, then I do think it is problematic. We often hear the phrase social media diet, and I think it is an appropriate metaphor or analogy to make, to say that, like what we eat, we can eat without discrimination, and we can end up making ourselves very unhealthy because of the fact that we're not paying proper attention to what we're eating. How much we eat, what we eat, and so on. I think in this day and age, we are all familiar with the notion that sugar tends to be seen as particularly bad, but sugar is very, very stimulating, and this is one of the reasons that we like eating sugar or sweet things. So it tastes wonderful, and there's such a variety in things that taste sweet, from ice cream to candy to chocolate to cold drinks and so on, that we can have a whole set of things to eat, but the main feature of all of those would be that it is sweet. So the same can happen with our media diet as well, that we can pay exquisite attention to things, well, maybe not exquisite attention, I'll come back to that phrase in another context, but exclusive attention to things that has the same kind of flavor, and in the context of this conversation, things that evoke fear in us. Often, what I've noticed is that, especially on the social media front, there is a collaborative commingling of fear and outrage or hate. And that is an interesting combination. I think there might be grounds to say that there is a reciprocal kind of relationship between fear and hate, and that the things that we hate we tend to fear, and that the things we fear we tend to hate. So I think either one of those feeling states that emerges if and when you pay attention to Twitter or Facebook or YouTube might be a clue. Now, as someone who strongly supports the notion that individual rights should be sovereign, that we should have as much right as possible to make the best kind of choices available to us, I'm certainly not going to say to you, cut it out. I can maybe just use this as an example of something that is very prevalent in modern life and say to you, well, pay close attention to what you are paying attention to, and ask yourself the question, is this something that will lead to more good or more bad? Alright, so that is one example of what we pay attention to and external things that we pay attention to. What I said about the different apps and social media platforms can of course go for almost anything. If we pay attention to gossip, office gossip, stumbling over my words there, office gossip, exclusively, we are likely to, over time, also experience difficult feelings. If we tend to pay attention to the bad driving habits of other people, we are likely to have, over time, bad driving experiences. So it exacerbates things for us. It becomes a multiply. Alright, so what we pay attention to on the outside. Now, in a similar way, we can also pay attention to things on the inside in a way that might, over time, come together to create bad states of mind, bad feelings, and maybe even bad behaviors. I think a classic example of this would be the hypochondriac, the person who pays attention to the slightest feelings of physical discomfort and who then exaggerates that, probably through fear, into something that it's not. So a headache then becomes a brain tumor, or a tight chest becomes lung cancer, or something to that effect. So what you pay attention to. So an interesting experiment, for instance, is to do a body scan and to pay attention to parts of the body that feel good rather than parts of the body that feel bad. This is not something that we are usually trained to do, or that we are likely to do, because when things feel okay or feel good, we sort of accept that as an okay point of departure and we don't investigate that. When things feel bad, then we pay more attention and we tend to investigate it, or at least we tend to elaborate on it in fantasy, imagination. So there is what we pay attention to, and then there is also how we pay attention. Now, how we pay attention is a very complex matter, and I think I'm going to leave that for my next video. So the point of this whole video is, okay, so becoming aware that we do pay attention, that we invest energy in the world, whether it's the internal or external world, that the fact that we pay attention has consequences. What we pay attention to matters, and that we might want to become a little bit more judicious in what we do pay attention to. All right, thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope this was helpful. I would appreciate any feedback that you have in the comment section, and perhaps we can elaborate cooperatively on the issues that you bring to the table. I will see you soon in my next video. Thank you.